Welcome to the Newberry Center for Renaissance Studies Learning from Premodern Plagues video series. I'm Claudia Brittenham, Associate Professor of Art History at the University of Chicago, and today's video is entitled Disease, Inequality, and Resilience in 16th-Century Mexico. In the summer of 1520, almost exactly 500 years before the moment in which I'm recording this video right now, the Aztecs of Mexico Tenochtitlan celebrated a great victory. They had finally managed to expel the Spanish invaders who had landed on their shores a year before. But not so long after those celebrations, victory turned to despair as a great epidemic struck, an epidemic of smallpox, a disease like so many others against which the indigenous peoples of the Americas had no immunological protection. In this illustration from the Florentine Codex, we see an indigenous female medical practitioner ministering to the sick, among them a young warrior and a young woman, giving a sense of the sort of range of people who were affected by this disease. Smallpox was only one of a number of epidemics that swept through the Valley of Mexico over the 16th century. Every triangle on this map represents one of these epidemics. And the cumulative effect was so great that the population of the Valley of Mexico, and perhaps of the Americas more generally, at the end of the 16th century, may have been only 1/10 of what it was before the Spanish invasion. Hard to understand that even in this moment of coronavirus. What I want to focus on today is this epidemic right here, this epidemic of 1576. We now think it might have been caused by a kind of hemorrhagic fever, but we know it best by its Nahuatl name, huey cocoliztli, or the Great Pestilence. Now, in the summer of 1576, when the huey cocoliztli struck, there was a book being produced in the northern districts of Mexico City, a book that we now call the Florentine Codex, but was titled the Historia General de las cosas de la Nueva España, or the General History of the Things of New Spain. It was a collaborative effort, the result of a long investigation and long conversation and collaboration between Fray Bernardino de Sahagún and a number of indigenous intellectuals, among them Antonio Valeriano, Alonso Bejarano, Martín Jacobita, and Pedro de San Buenaventura. In the summer of 1576, they were already on book 11 of this 12-volume encyclopedia. This was the Book of the Earthly Things. It includes accounts of animals and plants and insects. Here's an illustration of some of the plants that you see in this text. But over the course of the summer, as the huey cocoliztli epidemic intensified, supply chains began to dry up, and it became more and more difficult to obtain the pigments necessary to produce the work. Color drops out of the pages of the Florentine Codex, and yet the artists are tremendously resilient. Here to show that this is Quetzalchalchihuitl, a kind of jade that's slightly iridescent like a quetzal feather. The artist has painted quetzal feathers on top of the lump of jade to tell us something with words or with images where color is not available. Some of what we know about the huey cocoliztli epidemic comes from the Florentine Codex itself, because in the middle of a chapter about the different kinds of roads that you might find in New Spain, Sahagún interrupts his Spanish translation of the Nahuatl text to address the reader directly, and says, "I am now in the city of Mexico, in the district of Tlatelolco, and I see from the time that it began until today, the 8th of November, the number of dead has always gone increasing, from 10 to 20, from 30 to 40, from 50 to 60, and to 80. And from here, I do not know what will be." The sense of uncertainty and the sense of exponential growth, I think, really resonate right now. But so too does something that Sahagún doesn't mention, but other chroniclers do, which is the unequal effects of the huey cocoliztli on the population of New Spain. Juan Bautista Pomar, a mestizo chronicler, notes that the rich, well-dressed, and with a comfortable living were not affected by the disease, while Chimalpayin, an indigenous analyst, is even more explicit about who was affected. And during this time, he says, there were deaths all over New Spain. We Indians died together with the blacks, but only a few Spaniards died. In addition to reminding us about the African presence in New Spain, this tells us that the effects of inequality have gone together with plagues for a very long time. But there's one more thing about this cocoliztli epidemic of 1576 that I hope might resonate today. A little bit later in Book 11 of the Florentine Codex, Sahagún interrupts the text again to address the reader directly, this time at the end of a chapter about maize or corn, the staple of Mesoamerican existence. And here he talks about the history of the Catholic Church, but he ends in this way. What I estimate as to this matter is rather that soon this plague will cease, and that many people will still remain. And he concludes, I still think that there will always be numbers of Indians in these lands. Thank you for tuning in to Learning from Premodern Plagues. A new installment will be available soon. Please be in touch with any questions by emailing renaissance@newberry.org. Stay well.